Kentucky versus Kansas State. This is going to be on the East Coast in Greensboro, North Carolina. 847, 848 on the board. Kentucky finds themselves pretty much across the board a 1-point favorite. And your total is there between 145.5 and 146.5. With Kansas State, I did set them as an underdog of 2 points. So here at the 1, I'm willing to lay it with Kentucky. Not really willing to go north of a -1.5 here with Kentucky, but I do think that they should be the favorite because they've got the best player out there on the floor. Some people might disagree with me, but when you've got the reigning National Player of the Year and a guy that pulled down 25, count them, 25 rebounds against Providence and Oscar Tshiebwe, that is the biggest force in this game, as he's been able to do an amazing job with that regard. Now, Kentucky's still dealing with that injury to Xavier Wheeler. I don't think he's going to be coming back in this game, but you had Kassan Wallace look very solid for the team. He's been a double-figure scorer, a guy that's able to shoot it well from three-point range. And speaking of guys that are able to shoot it well from three-point range, Antonio Reeves. He has been one of the main constants for this Kentucky team all season long. He was able to supply 22 points, went 5 of 9 from three-point range. For Kentucky, all their players on Kentucky went 0 of 6 from three-point range, so I do think that that is of significance. And for Kansas State, they just have not been the same defense when they've been away from home. Kansas State, overall for the season, one of your better defenses that you're going to find in all of college basketball in terms of points allowed on a per-possession basis. They entered in the NCAA tournament clocking in at 37th, but also giving up 18.8 points more per 100 possessions when they leave home. So that's a bit of an issue. Kentucky more around 107th, and Kansas State a little bit more of an up-tempo team. They're in the top 75 in terms of total possessions per game. Kentucky well outside the top 200 in terms of total possessions per game. So you've got sort of a mix of different styles in this one. I do think that Kentucky is going to be able to succeed in slowing this game down a little bit more. I think that they're going to be looking to Oscar Tshiebwe, going a bit down low. I do think that they're also going to need to get some contributions out of CJ Frederick, a little bit more of a guy that comes in off the bench, is able to do a relatively solid job with that regard. But for Kansas State, I do fear that they might be a little bit too top-heavy in this game. For Kansas State, you've been able to have Marquise Noel along with Keontae Johnson do an amazing job. Johnson is able to give you 17 points, 7 boards. Cans north of 40% of his threes as a 6'6" do-it-all player. Marquise Noel, 7.5 assists per game as well, but 14.5 turnovers per game for Kansas State. I do recognize that they do play a bit more up-tempo, and Kentucky does not necessarily do a great job of ripping the ball away or anything like that, but I do think that with having Oscar Tshiebwe down low, that is the biggest antidote that you can have to all of this. I like Kentucky in this spot, set them as a 2-point favorite. I do think that this game gets slowed down. Kentucky has been playing a little bit better with their defense here in the back half of the season as well. It's a Kentucky team that we saw them play an almighty slog against Providence. They have given up fewer than 70 points in now 3 out of their last 5 games. So if you want to date it back a little bit further, in 5 out of their last 9 games. So semi-total 142, I'm going to be willing to dive under, and I'm going to be willing to ride with Kentucky in this ordeal.
Visit VSiN.com to get current odds, listen for free, find showtimes, and download VSiN sports betting podcasts.